Episode 2. Episode 2 of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. Alright, man. Very productive week. I gotta say, man. Very productive. Lots to always get done, and lots did get done. Lots of writing got done for sure, man. Every opportunity you can, you just gotta keep working at it. Working at whatever it is you're working on. And plenty of writing got done. Any opportunity I could. The great thing is that, on your phone, I have the website that I use. It's under the same account, so able to just hop on the phone if I need to write something really quick. I'm good. Filming is gonna get done soon. Doing some filming this week with some more writing that I was doing, so that's gonna get done. Always have to be working, man. No time, not enough time really, at all. Can't be sitting around doing nothing, man. Gotta do something. And this past week, something happened. Also watched plenty of movies, man. That good balance between finding inspiration and watching. At work, I listen to a lot of music at work, so I get a lot of inspiration that way. Also, I just like listening to music as well. I've been listening to a lot of it lately, and that goes back into the writing, and then feeling fulfilled after those thoughts that manifest get on paper at the end of the day. Just sitting back and seeing someone else's ideas and thoughts on the screen, man, it makes it all worth it. Makes it all worth it, man. Good things coming, good things happening, man. All right. Let's talk about the first film today. From 1996, directed by Steven Soderbergh, we got Schizopolis, or Schizopolis, however you want to say it. Steven Soderbergh, man, is just one of my favorite filmmakers. He's a real craftsman. He's a guy who is always doing cool stuff. He's always doing different stuff, and he's always adapting to the times. And trying different things, shooting on film or digital or an iPhone, or shooting without a completed script or non-actors. And regardless of how you feel about some films more than others, it's pretty hard to deny that he's not a true artist in a sense. And absolutely, a true artist. I don't know why I said in a sense. He's one of the most interesting artists and one of the most interesting filmmakers. And I would say that of all of his films that I've seen, I've liked all of them, or strongly, liked or loved. I'm trying to think right off the top of my head if there's any that he did that maybe I wasn't too crazy about. I'm looking here, and everything I've seen of his, there's still some areas of his I haven't seen. Like, I'm not really too eager to check out the Solaris remake, based off the Tarkovsky film. But this was a film that he did following up. So I actually thought he followed up King of the Hill with this, but he actually followed up a film called The Underneath, which I haven't seen. And this came out the same year as, I just had it right here, because I know he is... Let's see. Did this the same year as Grey's Anatomy, which I haven't seen. But Schizopolis, it's a real interesting film. It's just a comedy. It's kind of a surreal, experimental comedy. A lot of very loose in narrative. A lot of sequences that feel kind of isolated on their own, and a lot of, I believe, non-actors in the film. And what plot there is, we basically have Steven Soderbergh, who plays the lead character in the film. He works at a 9-to-5 job. They're kind of a strange kind of company. It's I read somewhere comparing it to Scientology in a way, because there's a book that they're, I guess, I don't remember if it was their boss or it was like this important book, kind of like what's his name, L. Ron Hubbard, who what's that book that he wrote, man? Gosh, man. I could not tell you. Anyways, it kind of feels like that, but it's not as out there. You know, like, I mean, it's not as overt, I should say. It feels more like just a regular 9 to 5 job. And he goes home to his wife and his kid, and they have very uh, uh, literal dialogue. So he walks into the house and says, "Generic greeting," and she says, you know, "Generic greeting to you." And there's a scene where she comes back from presumably cheating on him, and she was at the cinema, and he asks how the movie was, and she replies with something like vague plot description of the film, or something like that. And there's a whole lot of strangeness going on in this film, man. It's very, I already said surreal, schizophrenic, I guess is another word to use. There's a lot of times where there's just some sequences that feel disconnected, and there's a lot that could probably be taken. You could probably look at this. I don't know how deep this is meant to be. I mean, I guess you can look at it as I guess just everyday society, and the the literal communication the husband and wife have. Some I truthfully I didn't look too much into the actual plot. I was more enjoying this as a very energetic and really funny film. There's many running jokes in the film. There's constantly times where Steven Soderbergh's character is getting called out by his boss and asks why he isn't doing something, and he always just has like a couple words of an excuse, and that's the end of it. And they do that a lot. And there's just some other great moments, like when he goes into the bathroom. He's already in the bathroom, making these crazy faces in the mirror, and another guy walks in, and Steven Soderbergh asks how he's doing, and he goes, "Oh, not too well. I'm doing pretty bad, actually." And Steven Soderbergh just replies with, "Okay, I'll talk to you later," and walks out. And that moment actually caught me off guard. Steven Soderbergh is a filmmaker who does so many types of different things that not all of his films are going to work for you. I mean, it's kind of hard to recommend one film to another, where all I could say is that if you like a certain kind of film of his, you might like another one. But I mean, then again, if somebody asks, "Hey, recommend me a Soderbergh film," I mean, dude, that's such a loaded question that, I could tell you some of my favorites, man. But they're different types of films. I mean, when I first saw his debut film, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, it's a film that really stuck with me because of the way that Soderbergh wrote those characters. I can't even speak today. I'm gonna need some more coffee right now. Hold on a second. It's the way he wrote those characters. And the non-judgmental portrayal of these three different characters kind of stuck in, I don't even want to say a triangle, but it's basically, well, I won't get too much into that film. That could be a discussion for another time, but just the complications that James Spader puts into the lives of Peter Gallagher and Andie MacDowell in that film. They're having a difficult marriage, and his view of sexuality in that film, without it being erotic, you never get the sense that James Spader is getting off to his sexual questions that he asks various women. And anyways, I'm sorry, I completely went off topic there. But what I'm saying is that I could recommend a film like that, which is probably my favorite film of his. I don't think, did he direct The Day Trippers, man? I gotta look at that. I don't think he did. No, I'm pretty sure somebody else did. I don't know why I just thought of that film. Anyways, I thought I saw his name on it, but then he does the Ocean's movies and stuff, which are more kind of commercial, big films. And I listened to the audiobook of from the author of Easy Riders and Raging Bulls. It was like his, I don't know if it was his follow-up, if he did another one in between or something, but it was essentially about the rise of Miramax and the rise of independent films in the late 90s, or I'm sorry, in the late 80s to the 90s. They talked about Soderbergh and Quentin Tarantino, Kevin Smith, the prevalence of the Sundance Film Festival, and the changing of the tides. Not the changing of the tides. What's the expression? You know what I mean, man. Much in the same way that the shift from the late 60s into the 70s and the 80s of just that shift in Hollywood of the way that films were made and the way that filmmakers were given more carte blanche to do what they want, and the results that came of it, and the eventual downfall on a creative scale. It wasn't just Heaven's Gate. It was all these other factors that came into it. A lot of films were losing money and were just totally off the rails. I mean, films that we look back on now as cult classics, like The Last Movie or The Hired Hand, directed by Peter Fonda. Actually, it's kind of a coincidence I mentioned a Dennis Hopper film and a Peter Fonda film, going back to Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, Easy Rider. It's just maybe that was in the back of my head. Anyways, I just, for whatever reason, I thought of those two films. And The Last Movie isn't a very commercial or accessible film. I mean, it's definitely a film that I'm a big fan of, but it's difficult to recommend because it's an experience. It's a film that I don't want to say you couldn't make it now, because I'm sure you probably could, but not on the scale that the film is. Very experimental. But The Hired Hand, man, I feel like you definitely could. That's with Warren Oates as well, and that's a film that I really like a lot. But gosh, I'm sorry, dude. I went totally off topic there. I just was talking about Schizopolis, and I go on to these books, and I go on to Dennis Hopper, and I completely lost my train of thought. Kind of like the film. Kind of like how it just goes off on these tangents. And it goes off on these... I mean, you could take a handful of sequences in the film and watch them... I don't want to say in any order, but if you watch them on their own, you could still jump into any point of the film. There's a lot of cool filmmaking that Soderbergh does. One part that I really like is when Soderbergh, his his coworker comes into the office and tells him stories, and the way it's filmed like a documentary, where the way they're talking about, there's a great part where he's talking about how one of their coworkers had a heart attack because of his bad health. And he had diabetes or something. I think it was a heart attack. I don't remember if he actually had diabetes or not, but then every time he mentions it was obvious that he was going to have a heart attack. I mean, look at the factors here. And it's all these things that Soderbergh's character does himself. And just humorous sequences like that. It's a tricky one to recommend, because if the humor doesn't land for you, then you're not going to probably like the film. At least I would be hard-pressed if somebody did, because it's very fast-moving, fast-paced. It almost feels like, at times, an anthology. Not in the way where a story will end and another one will start, but more so in a way where it cuts back to about a couple different stories throughout. But it's not told in a linear fashion. It's just those characters, I should say, which I think makes for an interesting experience. I really love this film, man. I mean, it's one that every time I see a Soderbergh film, man, I just get something interesting out of it. Even if I don't love everything that he's done, I definitely like some more than others. I mean, all of his films, man, that I like. I mean, even Bubble is another one that I don't think many people like, or it's not as liked, but that's a film that I have really liked. I mean, I really enjoy that film, and I get the criticisms behind it, and I understand why people might be disappointed with the lack of story, or maybe, let me rephrase that, maybe not so much the lack of story, but the lack of a point. Sounds backhanded, but it really isn't when I say that. It's very observational of just a bad event that happens, and the film is done with non-actors, and I've heard people criticize the acting, and that's fair. I mean, you look at their IMDb's, and there's only about 3 real characters in the film, but that's a film that I have really, of all the films you watch, sometimes, I mean, even some you like more, you just kind of forget about, but that's one that for whatever reason has always stuck with me, and I think is such a cool and interesting film. And looking at his IMDb, I haven't seen a lot of his recent stuff. He's done a lot of stuff for streaming. He just had one out, Kimmy, with the Zoe Kravitz, which I think was an HBO film. I haven't seen it. I think the last film of his that I saw was Unseen when that came out with Claire Foy, and the big thing about that was it being shot on an iPhone. It's just cool that he's a filmmaker who will do just cool stuff like that. I think that it's a shame that Logan Lucky didn't do as well as it did, because that was actually one of my favorite films that he did. Very funny heist film with a great cast. And I mean, the only real downside that always stuck with me was I thought that the ending of the film just kind of went on for a bit too long. There's about the last 10-15 minutes I thought could have been completely removed, and you wouldn't have really changed much. You probably would have gotten the same point if you just, at least with a character introducing. I won't get too specific into that, but I that's a minor thing. That's just something that always stuck out. But yeah, Soderbergh is just one of these guys where I look at his last couple streaming films and I wonder why I haven't watched them yet. I mean, I'd be honest, man, I kind of want to just watch them all back to back, He's done like 4 or 5. Yeah, High Flying Bird, The Laundromat, Let Them All Talk, No Sudden Move, and his newest at the time of recording this is Kimmy. And I see that he's directing the next Magic Mike film. Apparently, I didn't actually know. I think Channing Tatum directed the last one, if I'm correct. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I actually don't know. That's another one of his films that I haven't seen. It was Magic Mike. I think it was another one that I don't know why I didn't see it. I mean, maybe I wasn't as into Soderbergh at the time. Like, I probably just wrote it off as something else. But either way, man, everything he does, I think he's just one of the best filmmakers to come out of the latter part of the 20th century. He's such a unique voice, and I kind of wish he did more acting roles, because he is a really, really funny lead in the film. And just watching him just you go completely off the rails and just strange, but then also deadpan at times. It's a cool film, man. It's just one that I watched a little bit ago, and it's been bumping up to one of my favorite Soderbergh films. So Schizopolis, it is available to stream. I watched it on HBO, but it's also available on the Criterion channel. And there's a Criterion DVD, and man, I tell you, I really hope this gets a Blu-ray, because he has a couple of his films on Criterion. He has King of the Hill, Traffic, Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Maybe that. Grey's Anatomy. I can't. Maybe there's some others. I don't know. But yeah, man, I would love to see this get a new Blu-ray. I'd love to see this get a Blu-ray, I should say, because I really liked this film. Almost loved the film, I would say. It's totally my kind of humor. Very silly, strange, experimental. Schizopolis, man. That's a good one. That's a great one, actually. Let's see here. I'm just about at the end of my coffee, so I'm having another sip of this. Coffee is great because you can drink a whole lot of it. Or I can drink a whole lot of it and not feel too sick. Tea, on the other hand, is something that I can only have about 2 cups of, and then, it starts to make me feel a little uneasy. But I spent more time talking about Schizopolis than I had intended. I think just because of how much I enjoyed the film and how big of a Soderbergh fan that I am. I was going to talk about My Night at Maud's, directed by Eric Rohmer, but I think I'll probably just skip that for now. My Night at Maud's, yeah, why not? Let's talk about the film. I don't have that much time left, and I'm not going to get too much into it because I don't have a whole ton to say, but I did want to mention it. I think Eric Rohmer is a filmmaker who, above everyone else, above a lot of other filmmakers that were putting out, European filmmakers that were putting out a lot of stuff around that time, a lot of big stuff. Where is Rohmer from, anyways? I think he's French. Okay, that makes sense. More so than Godard, I feel like people are more split on his films. From what I've heard, there's that line in Night Moves that I always laugh at, where Gene Hackman makes a joke about, or makes a comment that he went to go see an Eric Rohmer film, and his girlfriend or his wife asked how it was, and he says it's like watching paint dry. And I could see why people would think about that. My Night at Maud's, it's very dialogue heavy, to say the least. There's only about 3 real scenes in the film, maybe a couple more than that. I'm talking about like big sequences, not like a character just is on the street or something. We have these two characters, one played by Jean-Louis Trintignant, who you probably know from the Michael Haneke films. He was the lead in Amour. And Antoine Vitez. And they're two characters who, I won't get into the whole plot detail because time is not on my side right now. But I think it was Jean-Louis that was the one, yeah, it was him, who was he was a Catholic or a Christian, and he is very, he's not the swinger that Vidal is, Antoine Vitez. And basically we have a long, the main centerpiece of the film is a long conversation where he has with Maud by Francois Fabien, and about kind of their different, not necessarily their beliefs, but their outlooks on religion, on gender, on each other, really. And there's always that allure of Maud possibly leading him, because he's not interested in having sex with her. But what's interesting about the whole sequence is that you kind of get a sense that Maud could be leading him on, but there is still some resistance where you think that if he really wanted to go after her, she probably wouldn't back down. But there is that interesting resistance there, that allure of eroticism that's also not there. Maybe eroticism isn't the right word of it. The allure of something more. But it's never overt, and it's never even really flat out implicated. What happens from there on out, that whole sequence takes up a lot of the film. And we have another character in the film, a blonde character, who becomes a bigger part in the second half of the film. Francois. I'm probably getting that name wrong. I don't know if it's Francois or something else, man, but I tell you, I know the damn character. I just don't know how to say the name. She pops up at the beginning of the film and becomes a more intricate part, maybe not intricate, a more vital character in the second half with Jean-Louis. And some of the issues that they might have with one another, that kind of becomes, that Jean-Louis had brought up with Maud. And what I like about the film a lot is that it might be a turnoff to some people where the conversations that these characters have seemingly goes in circles. And I think initially that was a problem that I had, is that there was a lot of repetition in the conversation. But what it all boils down to, really, that I got out of it was, I guess, that character, Jean-Louis, maybe not fully knowing what he really even wants. I mean, he's kind of got to that point where, even though he is religious and Catholic, he doesn't really know. He wants to get married, but he doesn't really know what kind of woman that he wants, or he doesn't even know it to himself. He thinks he knows, going into the end of the film, kind of where he might want, who he might want, but he's kind of lying to himself in a way. At least that's what I got out of it. Eric Rohmer, he does some really great POV sequences. There's a really great sequence where I believe it was Vidal who was chasing after Francois, and they're going through the back alleys of France. She's on a bike, he's in a car, and it's very narrow streets, very enticing, kind of going after this forbidden character. And that's what I really like about it, is that you kind of forget about that character for a while, and then when she pops back up into the second half and becomes the lead, it's kind of like that chase pays off, you know? It's a bit of a tricky film to talk about in a way, because I may not be coming across exactly, and truthfully I probably should have written down some notes, but I just really thought that the dialogue in this film was great. The conversations more than the dialogue. I just really found myself getting wrapped up into primarily the main conversation between Jean-Louis and Maud, and even earlier in that sequence when Vidal is there before he leaves. All of that was great, and Maud talking about her life and her daughter and all that. It all just totally worked for me. I read a couple of things online, and I don't really read too much about reviews and stuff. I really don't care, to be honest with it. You know, no reviews don't shape my judgments, and That's why I don't look up anything before a film. I don't even look up a plot for before. But I saw some people saying it was it was a lot of self-grandizing. Is that the word? Glamour? Not grander. You know what I mean? It was kind of full of itself, and I don't know if I totally agree with that. Maybe I haven't seen enough Rohmer films, but certain films like this, I guess, can come off that way. I think that's kind of a problem that I have with a lot of Cassavetes films. Is I kind of get the some of the criticisms I read of this film and of Rohmer are kind of exactly what I have a problem with Cassavetes films. And that's not to say I don't like John Cassavetes as an actor. I do, and I even like some of his films. I like Opening Night and A Woman Under the Influence, and I'm warming up to Love Streams. I haven't really quite got on board with that, and I'm Minnie and Moskowitz, but some films like Faces, I just have trouble connecting with because of the kind of being full of itself in a way. And I don't want to say that about Faces. I don't mean to throw that film under the bus. I probably shouldn't have even mentioned it, but I'm just saying a film like that. I bring that up because of the criticisms I was reading about Rohmer, and hey man, you know, you're either going to get something out of it or you're not. I can't tell you one way or another. The way somebody would feel about this film is probably how I feel about a Cassavetes film, you know. But I get it, and I respect Rohmer, and I respect Cassavetes, and it was just an interesting perspective is all. But My Night at Maud's, man, I just thought you're either going to be on board with this or you're not. But I say if you haven't seen a Rohmer film before, I don't know if this would even be a good place to start. I don't even know what other Rohmer films I've seen, to be honest. Maybe not any of them. Maybe is this my first? It very well could be. I probably should have looked this up beforehand. But as you know, I'm a little unprepared most of the time. Looking forward to watching Claire's Knee. That's one that's been on my to-watch list for a little while. And I'm looking forward to that. And this film just really... I thought was phenomenal. I thought really when it was over at the end, it left me with a lot of thoughts and it left me thinking about Jean-Louis' character and his relationship to the women in his life. Man, I just thought this was a cool film. And we're wrapping up here. I was going to talk about another film, but you know what? I spent so much time with these other two, so we'll leave it at that, man. Heading out here, yeah, I did watch some cool stuff this week for sure. A couple other films that I probably could have talked about, but that's right, man. So Schizopolis and My Night at Maud's were probably the two best films I watched this week, or at least the two that I enjoyed the most. So yeah, man, keep at it with whatever it is you're working on, whatever art you're working on. Just keep doing it, man. Don't sit around and wait for other people to get ready, you know. In this past week of writing and of working, it's really kind of put into a lot of perspective of just how much you really just got to do it, man. You can't wait around for other people. You know, I'm so over the just hanging out and just aimless doing nothing, you know. That's why looking when I'm doing my writing and I'm looking and I read back and I go, wow, man, this is what it's all about. This is why you get up in the morning, man, to do this and to create. And I see nothing but good things going forward, man. So that's, I think, where I'm going to leave this episode at. So that's all I got, man. Check them out.